Hi, my name is William Wesley. This particular assignment is in regard to my course, my graduate studies course in Course Foundations in Special Education. And Professor Katie Sprout gave us this particular assignment. It's in regard to the professional disposition of learners. It was actually a survey that we had to complete. And in relation to that particular assignment, we also had some questions that Professor Sprout wanted us to answer. And I'll be going over those particular questions in relation to other assignments that have been given in readings and whatnot that we were assigned. And the first question is, what is the special education teacher's role in supporting learning, improving, planning, and practice, upholding professional expectations and ethics, and collaboratively advancing the profession? In thinking about the role of a special education teacher, uh, it oftentimes can be challenging because there's so many different types of learning needs within special education. But the special education teacher should be there as a support for the general ed teacher or the regular education teacher, helping that teacher to understand the needs of that particular student, uh, regardless of what their particular area of eligibility is in special education, whether it's a learning disability or if it's a behavioral issue, whether they're on the autism spectrum, whether they're other health impaired, whatever the situation is, the special education teacher should be helping uh, the other people on staff, the other teachers, all those in relation to that student have a better understanding of how to serve that student's needs and to meet that student's needs. We should definitely be a team player in examining whether or not the student's IEP is being properly implemented. We should be making sure that the parents are made aware of everything that's going on in regard to their child's education. Basically, we should be that connective tissue between the general ed classroom teachers rather on staff, and the parents and the administrators. We should be in all those areas and with all those particular people to help meet the needs of the special education student in the classroom setting. And as far as upholding professional expectations and ethics, if anything, it's the same standards that should be expected for any person in education. You should be true to your calling. You should be not doing anything dishonest or improper. Not as far as the paperwork, as far as dealing with a particular student. We should be held to the same standard as anybody in education. No lying, no deceit, no improper handling of paperwork. Definitely, since we're dealing with students' individual education plans, we certainly shouldn't be sharing that data and that information with people who don't have any right to that information or don't have legal access to that information. That also is the case for outside parties. We should be aware of those things. We should know what the law is in regard to the needs, the information of students in special education. The second question says, what dispositions that you currently possess will help you become a successful teacher? Also says, what dispositions do you need to work on before you enter the classroom as a first year teacher? Before I answer that question, I should make it clear that I'm actually not a first year teacher. I've been in special education for a while now, for a couple years, but there are some areas where I definitely see that I need improvement. I definitely need to work on my concern for my students. That isn't to say that I don't care. I certainly do, but I need to work to have more of a um, everyday, purposeful concern for their growth and their improvement in the classroom setting, not necessarily just checking in every now and then as far as checking to see how they're doing in the general ed population, but actively seeking out, okay, if the student's name is George, see how George is doing in science, see if he's made improvements in terms of meeting his IEP goals. Those are things that I do anyway, but I definitely know that I need to improve in terms of actively checking up on students, actively seeking to see whether or not the student is connecting with the general ed teacher. If IEP goals, well, not IEP goals, but if the any classroom accommodations are being or are not being met, those are things that I, as a special education teacher, need to be aware of, and that's part of um, making certain that students can learn and they have everything they need for student success. I definitely need to be more sensitive to the individual uh, learning and social needs of students. Of course, dealing with EC students and knowing that they have their IEP, I definitely know that they learn differently, as all students do. But as far as the social needs of students in dealing with cultural diversity, that can definitely be a challenge. The school that I work at now has a much more diverse population than I was accustomed to. They have a larger Mexican population or Spanish speaking population than was the case at my previous school. And dealing with the different culture has required me to grow in my understanding of different cultures and how to reach out to the student, regardless of their education needs, but certainly in regard to students that have IEPs and or within special education. Uh, Connecting with the parents, understanding their background, all those things are areas where I definitely can improve as an educator. And moving forward to the next question, says, what effect could personal biases have on expectations that teachers have for their students? How could these biases affect their relationships with students and their families? And I kind of touched on that just now, um, given that a lot of the special education students that I have now are from a background where their parents are either they don't speak English or they have poor English speaking skills, and they're in poverty, many of the students. There can be a danger of assuming that the students somehow can't perform on the same level as someone who doesn't have those economic challenges or don't have the difficulties with communication with their parents, since they go home and they might not necessarily be able to get help from their parents because their parents don't speak English. So while those things are definitely challenges, it would be wrong for me or any other person to assume that these students can't be successful or that these students can't learn because of the economic challenges or because of the language barriers at home. It would be wrong for me to treat these students like a lost cause, and I work very hard not to do that. Just as I work hard not to treat my special education students as though they can't learn or not holding them to high standards, recognizing that many of them, the majority of them, will still have to take the same rigorous tests that their general ed population classmates will have to take. So I, I and every person in education and in society at large should be careful not to allow these ideas or these um, biases, even if we have good intentions, to affect our uh, dealings with our students or anybody in the school setting. Because for all students, we should hold them to high standards, and it's the job of not only me, the special education teacher, but all those in education to do whatever we need to do to get the students where they need to be successful, to be the best they can be. And that's something that all of us need to work on, myself included. So, with those issues in mind, I recognize that I, as an educator, definitely have improvements to make. I've definitely need to grow in a great many areas, but I do believe that all students everywhere, have the ability to learn. They have the ability to grow as students, just as I, as an adult and educator, have the ability to grow in my understanding, the ability to grow as an educator, and to grow as a human being. Just as I have those same ideas about myself, I should have those ideas about the students that I encounter day after day in the classroom setting and also in the community. That's all I have to say about that. Uh, if anybody has any questions to ask me, you can definitely leave a message with this video, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Thank you for watching this video, and I look forward to communicating with a great many of you. Have a good day. Bye bye.